What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so today's video, we're gonna be talking about X-Men number 16 by Jonathan Hickman and Phil Noto. And in this video, we're gonna learn that the outcome of Ten of Swords, how everybody was supposed to be making nice between Arakko and Krakoa, and how these islands were supposed to come back together, and how Krakoa wanted nothing more than reunification with Arakko. We're gonna learn that is not as easy a feat as Apocalypse just saying, make it so. We're also going to learn that the X-Men, who we have recently learned were disbanded when House of X became a thing, we are going to learn that Cyclops and Marvel Girl are going to be bringing them back in a big way, and probably not the way the Quiet Council wants them to. We're going to talk about all that and more right now. But first, wash your damn hands, and let's hit that intro.
Word to wise, grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple eyes. You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
So right off rip, let's go ahead and talk about this one and get it out of the way first, because I feel like this is one of those things that people are going to have questions about, because it was the whole thing, Ten of Swords, it was supposed to be about Krakoa being reunified with Arakko and becoming Okara once again, the way it was back when Apocalypse and Genesis originally ruled the land. And we thought that was going to be a thing. Apocalypse said, yeah, give Arakko and all of its mutants to Krakoa. We're going to see millions of mutants coming together with the mutants we already have. And while it all seemed like such a grandiose idea at first, we learned that it ain't. Because right now, Cypher, who is right now the only one who can communicate with both Krakoa and Arakko, because you must remember the Red Root, who is, I guess, kind of the Cypher for Arakko, well, she's been locked up in Otherworld by Mad Jim Jaspers. So she cannot translate for Arakko, so Doug is having to do this for both islands. And what we learn is that they've become very different people. It's kind of like what we expected to see between Genesis and Apocalypse when they were reunited with one another. It was one of those situations where they had spent so much time apart, they became different people. And I'm sure some of you can relate. Imagine someone that you used to date, or someone you're even just friends with. You don't see them for, I don't know, 10, maybe 15 years, and then you re-up with each other, and then you learn that you guys just don't have that magic anymore. You're different people. You've moved on from each other. You've probably evolved to become different people multiple times over, to the point that you're unrecognizable to the other. Imagine that same feeling, but over the span of like thousands of years. Whereas with Apocalypse and Genesis, they were able to make that work and come back together. Arakko and Krakoa, not so much. They don't want to reunify with each other, neither Arakko or Krakoa. What's making matters worse is the fact that they haven't even addressed the millions of mutants on the island, which Doug informs us the mutants of Arakko outnumber the mutants of Krakoa 20 times over. This creates a unique problem, because not only do you have way more mutants on Arakko outnumbering the number of mutants on Krakoa, the mutants of Krakoa are a peacetime nation. Arakko is a wartime nation. This is something that actually leads to Xavier and Magneto going to Arakko and meeting with Iska the Unbeaten, who we learned is still in her golden getup from the end of Ten of Swords. And I do want to point this out, something that actually did kind of bug me in this, and I've noticed this whenever Phil Noto is drawing this character, but I feel like those African elements, those black elements of Iska just disappear when Phil Noto is drawing her, and just, I'm not a fan of it, but you know, it is what it is. The thing is, Iska is still Iska, and she, we learn, has been one of the leaders of Arakko, and I guess maybe this was something that was implied when we first met her, but we learned that the Quiet Council that rules Krakoa is not such a unique thing to what Arakko has. We learned this back during the beginning of Ten of Swords, and maybe even a little before that. What we do learn is that Iska sits on the council, though they don't call it the Quiet Council. In Iska's land of Arakko, they have the Great Ring, which operates on a similar level as the Quiet Council, with there being different branches within the ring, each of which likely holding people who are of similar mindset. Kind of like how we have the autumn, the fall, the winter, winter, and the summer. Council, they have something similar. They have the dawn, the dusk, the day, and the night. Now, once again, Arakko no longer has Red Root because, once again, she is captured by Jim Jaspers in Otherworld. But this council does hold some very interesting names, one of which we're already familiar with, and that is Tarn, the Uncaring, the same Tarn that Mr. Sinister ran afoul of when he went to Arakko. Now, one of the things that's actually very different about the Ring versus the council is the fact that these guys aren't just, characters who are prominent in their corners of this universe. With the Quiet Council, it's very arguable that most of the characters on the council are not the most powerful members of their society. Now, yes, Exodus and Magneto are considered Omega level mutants, Marvel Girl, an Omega level mutant, so on and so forth. But a lot of the characters that sit on the council outside of them are kind of just people who had special interests that needed to be met in the cases of characters like Mystique or Sebastian Shaw, characters like Emma Frost, who were sought out for, their cunning and their guile and their ability to get things done and make things happen. Whereas in this case, in Arakko, the people who sit on the council literally are the most powerful mutants on the island. They even say here that no mutant has ever sat on this council of the Great Ring that was not an Omega level mutant. Not once. It has never happened, and it never will. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, the different seats that make up this council, the Night Council is something that's actually just a rumor, though I'm pretty sure we're going to learn there are characters who sit on that Night Council throne, and I'm pretty sure we'll find out eventually who they are. But don't be surprised if the names Apocalypse or Genesis pop back up again at some later date as a result of this, or this could be entirely a whole new trio of characters we've never seen before. But getting back to the conversation with Xavier, Magneto, and Iska is that, yeah, she gets it. Arakko doesn't want anything to do with Krakoa. She totally understands why this is a thing, and she even tells him that it makes sense. Krakoa is soft, Arakko is strong, and right now Arakko is thinking of protecting itself, not trying to coddle some baby nation. And that's not necessarily an insult to the mutants, but it is just what it is. We saw a lot of this through Ten of Swords, how the Horsemen and the rest of the people representing Arakko in the name of Amenth and Genesis, and and by extension Annihilation, a lot of those characters, they looked at Krakoa as being a soft and baby nation, and that's exactly what it is. The thing I find very interesting in all this is that Iska's gonna try and see if maybe she can convince the Great Ring to maybe rethink this whole unification thing, or maybe even just trying to play nice with one another. But the truth of the matter is that Iska now realizes that they exist now in a world where humans still rule everything. And I'm gonna go and tell you right now, there was a little sly smile on her face when she learned that humans still rule things, that humans still have power here on this planet. This is gonna make some problems. Like, a lot of you guys who were complaining about how, oh, they don't have any more mutant bad guys anymore, it's just a bunch of humans who just, hate mutants. Well, guess what? You got your wish. You got your wish, because now this means mutants are gonna become the forefront in this whole X-Men corner of the Marvel Comics universe regarding who is gonna be the bad guys. We're gonna start seeing more mutants step forward, because all the other mutant villains, they pretty much sided with Krakoa. There were only a handful of mutants who didn't. One of them being Colossus's brother, Mikhail Rasputin. Well, now there's a whole island of mutants who could potentially become enemies for the X-Men, and it's gonna be interesting to see that play out. But Iska's let them know that Xavier and Magneto probably should never come back, offering gifts of teleportation flowers and soft words. Now, getting on to the other thing I want to talk about in this that happened in this book is the X-Men. We just talked about them a second ago, but I love the fact that right now we're seeing that, yeah, the Quiet Council is scrambling, trying to refill its remaining seats. We still have the fact that Marvel Girl resigned and Apocalypse is likely never coming back. So that leaves 2 seats unaccounted for. And Magneto and Charles together, they ask, and more importantly, almost implore Marvel Girl and Cyclops to fill those seats. Something that, unsurprisingly, if you've been keeping up with Ten of Swords and even some of the more recent developments in the X-Men comics overall, Marvel Girl and Cyclops, they decline. They feel that there's a greater purpose, a greater need that the mutants of Krakoa, while yes, they're being protected, they have a safe space, they have things that they never imagined ever having before, but that doesn't mean there aren't still problems that need to be fixed and things that the Quiet Council are not taking care of. And Marvel Girl says it best, that the people of our nation need to feel like someone is acting on their behalf, not deciding what's best for them, not deciding what is and is not in their best interest, but someone who fights for them. And that is going to be us. And while Magneto and Charles initially aren't crazy about the idea, they realize there's no talking Marvel Girl and Cyclops out of what they plan to do. There's no talking them out of it. They've already made up their minds. They've said as much before. And that's just regarding the Quiet Council bit. They also realize they're not going to be able to talk them out of reforming them X-Men's. And what I loved about this, and probably my favorite part of this book, is when Magneto asks them, who are you going to assign to the team? Cyclops says that he could just always just pick a bunch of people that he feels are best for the team and be done with it, but that's not what he wants to do. He feels like that's not right. And Jean even comes in and says that if the X-Men are truly going to be of the people, for the people, then they need to actually put their money where their mouth is. They're not going to go out and say, hey, Beast, I'm cool with you. Why don't you come run with me? Hey, Nightcrawler, we've been tight for years. Come run with us. Storm, you're my OG from back in the day. Come jump on the team. No, what they're planning to do is that they're going to put it to a vote. And one thing I find very interesting in all this is, like, we actually see a poster at the end called The Election of the X-Men, something I thought was actually pretty cute. But it says here that the X-Men are the heroes of Krakoa, for the people made up of the mutants of our great nation. And in the coming days, we will announce the dates of our annual X-Men election, and we will be accepting nominations for representatives. This will be followed by a formal vote and then an unveiling of your team at the first Hellfire Gala. Now, a thing to take note of is the fact that they say that of all the party affiliations that you can have on Krakoa, whether you are part of the Academos habitat, whether you're a member of House M, whether you're a member of the Hellfire Trading Company, Bar Sinister, the Wild Hunt, or the Iraqi Pillar, it doesn't matter. But the Quiet Council and anyone who sits on it is not allowed to be a member of the X-Men. So that means that if you had any designs on thinking that Emma Frost was going to be back on the team, that Nightcrawler was going to be back on the team, and actually, if you think about it, this also disqualifies Storm from being on the team as well. None of those characters are going to be on the X-Men. This is going to be a team that is strictly of the people, for the people, by the people. And I actually think this is very interesting because initially when I read this, I was like, oh man, dude, they're going to put it to a vote. Well, we know Storm's going to get in. That thought about it, I was like, wait a minute, she's on the Quiet Council. She can't be on that mother. And it sucks, but I actually think that's not the worst thing in the world. She's already on the Marauders. She's already a member of the Quiet Council. She's got plenty to do. But I know that's going to sting for some people. Some people it's going to sting for them. They're going to be like, oh my God, you're gating her out of it. And it's like, look, it's okay. It's going to be fine. But that also means that, you know, characters like Sebastian Shaw, Exodus, Mr. Sinister, they can't be a part of it. There are lots of characters that the Quiet Council encompasses. Mystique cannot be a part of it. It's interesting to me that, yeah, all these characters who are members of the Quiet Council have no say. And we already learned the Quiet Council is technically the ruling body of Krakoa, with maybe, say, for X-Force being the only thing that can really even override them. And now we see that the X-Men are going to kind of be like the anti-X-Force. And if you think about it, that's a lot of really heavy political commentary going on right there. Actually, something that kind of echoes recent conversations about election laws, you know, IRL. Like, this is something that's kind of mirroring that. It's making a very strong statement that I know is going to piss a lot of people off, but, you know, hey, I'm here for it. Like, I see this team being something that is going to constantly butt heads with the Quiet Council and X-Force, and I think this is actually something that is going to be for the best. This is where Cyclops is at his best when we're talking about rebellion and going back against those who are calling the shots. A lot of people like to think of Cyclops as the Boy Scout who just follows orders blindly, but that tells me you don't really read X-Men if you think that way, because Cyclops always questions. Yeah, at the end of the day, especially if you go back to the OG days, yeah, he would just go along with it, but he would always have something to say. He would always have some kind of a question to whatever it is that Charles was planning. Hell, one of the best examples of this is a book that just recently got re-released in, I think, in hardback trade, and that's God Loves, Man Kills. Go back and read that book and tell me Cyclops is a Boy Scout. He's not. That Cyclops just simply follows orders. That's not the case. If he feels the cause is is just, he will follow those orders, but if he feels like there's anything even the least bit off in him, he's gonna say something, and that's what the X-Men are supposed to be. The X-Men are gonna be the checks and balances for the Quiet Council, whether the Quiet Council wants them to be that or not, and I'm here for it. I want to see that. I think that, yeah, especially with the loss of Marvel Girl and Apocalypse and so on and so forth from the Quiet Council, these characters are, with more, I guess, villainous leaning characters being prominent on the Quiet Council, the voices of Storm and Nightcrawler are pretty much going to be snuffed out. Yeah, I think it's gonna suck overall, but at the end of it all, I think this is gonna be the best possible thing for the reign of X going forward. But anyways, I think that's something I think is really fun to think about. It's gonna be something I think is gonna cause a lot of discussion. It's gonna be interesting. Just wait, just you wait. But anyways, let me know what you thought about X-Men number 16 by Jonathan Hickman and Phil Noto. Do you believe, just like I do, that the X-Men are gonna cause fits for the Quiet Council? And do you think that Arakko not wanting to get back with Krakoa and vice versa, do you think that's where our next crop of mutant villains are gonna come from? We already know Tar and the Uncaring's already on the list, but do you think that's gonna mean even more mutants jumping on that bandwagon? Wash your damn hands and sound off in the comments.